5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome back into another episode of the Skol Experience with Minnesota Sports Talk and GG Sports Podcast.
Let's go.
Coming off, unfortunately, missing a show last week because Jamie caught that California COVID. And then, of course, Saturday comes, Vikings lose to the Bengals in Cincinnati. And now we're on to Detroit this weekend in what I think is fair to call a must-win contest. I mean, obviously, would have been nice to have had a couple of the last few, or at least one or two of the last few games that came down to the wire that could have gone our way, but unfortunately didn't. So now I think we're in a position where these next two games, or the next two games for sure, probably three games, become super important. And I think you got to find a way to win two of them. All in division, 2 games at home, everything's still in front of you, but we definitely made it more difficult on ourselves than it needed to be. But before we get into all that, how's it going tonight, fellas?
Well, that was a loaded intro, so I don't know. I don't know where to begin, but we got a guest. Look who popped in.
Let's bring him in and see if he's ready here. Hey, let me do some shout out here. Well, shout out here. Hey, what's going on, Gary? Our guy. Always in the building. What is up? Let's go. And here we go. Right here, Skol Stater of Mind in the building. What is going on?
What's up, fellas? How y'all doing?
Doing good, man. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Good
You
deal.
get some W's. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Let's get 3 in a row.
Yeah,
That's all,
right?
that's all I need.
Yeah.
But as we normally do with new guests on the show here, we're going to give you the floor. Tell us about how you became a Vikings fan and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay. I became a Vikings fan, I say season like 97, 98, the miracle year. It wasn't Randy Moss. It was basically Robert Smith, who, I was playing running back at the time as a little kid or whatever. They told me to look at Robert Smith, look at he does, turned on the, Viking game. We just so happened to be the Cowboys or whatever. And Robert Smith was my guy, Chris Carter, and I've been a Viking fan ever since. So I would do my own podcast, Skol Stater of Mind. Got a few, episodes up, and I'm on Twitter a lot, but, that's about it.
Good deal, man. Good deal. But yeah, before you hopped on here, we were just kind of talking about how this team, unfortunately, let a couple should have wins slip by, and now they kind of put themselves in a tough situation where you got 3 divisional games, 2 of them luckily at home, but yeah, you kind of backed yourself into a corner here where there's 2 out of these next 3, you got to find a way to win them.
Yeah, that's true. It's kind of like if you look at some of the close games that they lost this year, I know they wish they can have them back. The Denver game, the Chicago game, right, because they could be sitting real pretty right now and won't have to press too much to try to win these games. But I kind of like the adversity because now we can kind of see what this second-year coach is made of, what the coaching staff is made of, what Brian Flores is actually made of after getting carved up, in Cincinnati. So, I want to see it.
For sure. And I guess you mentioned the coaching staff. What are your thoughts, almost 2 years into the regime here? What are your thoughts? Because obviously this last week has brought up a ton of conversation. I mean, that's kind of been the focal point of the conversations on Vikings Twitter and Vikings land in general is just Kevin O'Connell. Is he the guy? Is he not the guy? What are your thoughts so far?
I feel like, we have to take the lumps as they go. Like, he's only in his second year, as a head coaching role and as a role of basically like calling plays. So there's going to be times where he regresses and times where he makes boneheaded moves. But I would say we shouldn't come out there Vikings Twitter and call for his job and say Flores should take the job. That's not cool right now.
Silly.
It's silly, right, Dave? So
it just made us look silly.
Yeah, it did. It's just I feel like year 3 is when you can be like, all right, he's not learning from his mistakes. The coaching staff is not getting better. But year 2 is kind of like we still playing with house money because we were 13-4 last year, and house money this season also because we actually in the playoff hunt. So let's just see what these guys are made of. I mean, it's okay to criticize them, but coming from their jobs, it's come on now.
Yep.
It's a little too much.
Yeah, I think I personally agree with that 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kevin O'Connell mostly has shown a lot, and I think to kind of come after his job, or people bringing this up when he's been dealing with backup quarterbacks these last 6 weeks, or what? Not 6 weeks. How many weeks has it been? 7?
7 weeks.
7 weeks. And what's our record with these backup quarterbacks still?
3-3, 3-4, something like that.
Is it? Are we?
Oh, so
3
it's 7-7. So Kirk was 8 weeks, but I guess you could say he had a backup quarterback in week 8. So I guess you could say that, but yeah.
Yeah. So, but would we say 3-3 then? Right.
Yeah.
So 3-3 with backup quarterbacks, which at the end of the day, I mean, that's a lot of adversity that comes down there. I mean, especially bringing in Jaren Hall, he goes down after one drive. You bring in a guy that's only been on the team for like 5 days, and Dobbs, and yeah, he ends up winning, but he's not been on this team at all. And then Nick Mullins comes back, and he's only been off of injury for a couple weeks. So you have to put that in the scenario with this whole Kevin O'Connell thing, because at the end of the day, I mean, you're talking about a guy who has like a marginally big, I can't think of the word I want to say, but he just has a lot more wins than losses in his career so far as a head coach. And another thing about him, and I've said this before, is like one special thing about him though is he's been able to show that he can coach really well in games when they're behind. Like when when his back's against the wall is when he's the best at coaching, when he's coming up with his best plays and he's bringing back our team to stay in it. I mean, I do think he still needs to learn how to do that when we're up in points and, not play so conservative in those situations, but he's figuring it out as a head coach. So I'm definitely disagree with people who want him gone. And I love his leadership. That's why I'm like, don't get me wrong. Like, I do not want to lose Flores. I know a lot of people say the Tomlin thing, but I would prefer, like, I like Kevin O'Connell as the head coach and Flores as the defensive coordinator, instead of like the other way around, where if, let's say, you just had Flores as your head coach and then Kevin O'Connell was more of like an offensive coordinator or whatever.
We already seen that.
We've seen that already.
Seen that with Miami.
Yeah, right? Exactly. And Kevin O'Connell
the way he handled Tua.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I think that's what a lot of people forget about with him too, is like this team eventually is going to have a young quarterback, and we saw how it worked out with the last one. Like,
he was trying to get rid of him.
You do got to factor that in there a little bit.
So that's the thing, is like it's really nice. Having Kevin O'Connell, you don't just get that kind of leadership from anywhere. So it's good that we have that kind of head coach. Though at the end of the day, it could. If we lose Flores, who knows what that would do to this team. But I hope not.
Nah, he ain't going nowhere.
This was a stat I saw that 11 of the 14 playoff teams currently are offensive-minded coaches. So that's the trend, and people love trends in the NFL. So going after a defensive coach, and we already thought, well, let's go to New England. Well, apparently they got already a guy keyed up there. People are telling me on Twitter, and then they're not going to put him with Herbert with the Chargers. No way.
And I think, and Dave, I think you'd kind of mentioned it before too, how it does feel like when it comes to head coaches, it always does switch from defensive to offensive minded, just kind of as everybody hires a new coordinator. And obviously going from Brandon Staley to a defensive minded in Brian Flores. Yeah, I don't know if that would necessarily fit into what they're planning.
Like when we picked up Zimmer, we had a college stadium. We had the bottom of the barrel choices out there. It was either him, it was either the defensive coordinator for Cincinnati or the offensive coordinator for Cincinnati.
Right.
Those are our two choices, basically. And we went defensive coordinator. We made the right choice for us at the time, which was good, because we all know, Cincinnati turned out to not to be, not Cincinnati, but the Redskins turned out to be a crap show. Maybe won I think they made the playoffs once or something like that, and that was with Cousins. But
right.
Yeah, it's just that was what we had to work with, because really, who was wanting to come to our stadium situation, our turmoil that we're having at the time? So you get the right coach at the right time. I think we got our forever coach, our 10-year plus coach. Yeah. I personally do. That's me.
A lot of things like people don't understand when they're talking about the Flores situation, actually getting a head coaching job is like this. Like, you got to understand what a lot of these young quarterbacks coming into the league, you don't want a defensive minded coach, because that means when that team is good, that offensive coordinator is going to leave. So that young that young guy you just drafted or whoever it is, like quarterback, is going to have to learn a new system every time they get another offensive coordinator. So what teams are one of the other reasons why they're leaning towards that is because like a Kevin O'Connell, even if Brian Flores leaves, he still is going to have his offensive system regardless of is it Cousins, is it Dobbs, is it whoever. But teams look at that better because it's like you have more stability on that side of the ball. And a lot of average fans don't think about that.
Imagine, having a young quarterback, and we had one, and having him go through,
Jason Campbell,
different offensive coordinator every year with Zimmer, which it was. We had 6, in 5 years, or 5 in 5 years, or something like that.
Right. And actually, I had never thought of that point before. That's a really good point.
That's why we got him on. Yeah. That's why we brought him on. Man. They're smarter out there in California.
Yeah. And I mean, and to what Dave said too is just, I mean, it's like once we fired Zimmer, it was like, all right, now let's go with an offensive mind because that's what we need. And I do think with this, especially like to your point, if we were to get a rookie quarterback, this is what our team is kind of built for. It's definitely became more of like an offensive talented team, even though, I mean, surprisingly this year, of course, we've been kind of riding on our defense of late, but with the talent with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison now and TJ Hawkinson, and I mean, you can even say Kirk Cousins right now, but if in the future, if we do have a young quarterback, it makes a lot of sense to kind of have an offensive mind there. Yeah. So I think the one debatable thing that I'm not saying, I like Kevin O'Connell with the coach. I agree with Dave where I'm hoping he's our forever coach. I think he's that good of a leader and the players love him. I think the question is will he be able to continue to be consistent as a play caller? And does he ever decide? I have a hard time believing he ever will, but does he ever decide to give the play calling up? Or I think I'm on team. I believe he's going to figure it out. He's definitely shown stretches of good play calling, but it hasn't just been very consistent.
I think this last game was.
This last game definitely
was. The recency bias our fan base has, and
other than the last two plays threw everybody off.
Recency bias, 4th and 8 last year, and now this year it's
I'm not even mad about the play calls because quarterback sneaks, as we talked about before, are pretty high percentage.
I think everybody's like doing it twice with the same play and the same tush.
I mean, I could see that, but also, I mean, I think it was more of like they want if obviously the timeout wasn't going to happen because he had already talked to the ref and the ref said, no, we reviewed it. It's, it's the play. So I think they did. I mean, in a way, is it like expecting the defense that there's no chance they're going to run this play 2 times in a row? And we did. And, from the get-go, it wasn't going to work because Mullins slipped.
Holy shit,
as soon as Mullins took the snap, he slipped like right away. So
I'm like that DiCaprio play or that DiCaprio meme. When he sees something familiar, it's like.
But Jamie mentioned a good point, and that's the thing.
I think they wanted to make him. I have a different theory about that too, guys.
Yeah, go ahead.
Here it is.
This is what I think, and I thought about it and I looked at it. I have no one talk about this. I think they went into the same formation twice because they wanted the defensive linemen to flinch. And they were disciplined because if it's like 4th inches, if they get like an offsides or encroachment penalty, whatever, however they're gonna call it, then they automatically get a first down. Yeah. And I think they kind of like ran the play too long where they had to hike the ball within that formation. I kind of feel like Kevin has to grow from that. Like when you get to like 5 seconds, call that timeout because sometimes defenses aren't going to flinch. And if you really think about it, you in that same formation, majority of the time defenses always flinch and give you 5 yards for free. That's what I think they were trying to do.
Well, and I don't understand. I don't understand.
I'm not giving them that much credit. I do think it was to keep, I do think it was to keep their personnel on the field because I heard, it was 11 personnel apparently, and they wanted to not 11. Yeah, 11. One tight end, one. Yep. Yeah, I think that's what it was. I would rather had 13 personnel in there, honestly. And having 2 tight ends tush pushing him.
Right.
I can't believe we talking about tush pushing Minnesota.
I don't necessarily understand why people are so upset they didn't call a timeout there. Like, yeah, it gives you more time to think, but it also gives the defense time to rest and get some new player or get some fresh players out there. The whole timeout thing doesn't bother me as much as it is bothering some people. I think I think you want to get up there and run a play quick anyway.
Yeah.
Another angle is look what our running back had been doing all day.
Well, right. Yeah, that's
give him one shot at it.
Right. Yeah. And I think
I would have gone 3rd down. Third down, Ty Chandler. If you don't get it then you hurry up to the line and run a sneak.
Right. So I do think I mean, in my head, if you were to tell me that if it's 3rd and inches, but you were going to go push tush twice in a row, no matter what, in a year where it's like significantly a positive play in this league to the point where that some people want to ban it, I would say, yeah, if you told me that, I'd be like, all right, two tush pushes in a row at 3rd and inches and 4th and inches, your odds of making that are pretty almost higher than any other thing you could do twice in a row. Though, so I mean, like, that's why I'm not super angry at it. I think the Brandon Powell thing is that's the one that
the
throws me
part
off.
I'm the
And
worst.
the Ty, and I'm on team like, yeah, you should have in this scenario given Ty Chandler a shot at the ball.
Yep.
And one thing before you say anything, Casey, hey, I want to do some shout outs real quick here. Another Justin Jefferson rookie card. This one's a pretty solid one here. Get those hashtag Skols in the comment, like the video, subscribe to
And a
channels,
Brandon Powell.
all that
card.
good stuff. I know I need to get some Brandon Powell cards in here since he has the best
Let's go, Brandon.
tush pusher in the league. Everybody here, get those hashtag Skols in here. I see you, Frozen North, Tim 4CN. What's going on, dude? Who else do we got in here? Jiffer, I see you in here. Yogi popped in. We got Dan Hennemans, Too Evil in the building. Skol for Life Barber. We got our guys in the building. Skol State of Mind is here today. Let's go over there, and here's his link to his YouTube channel. Go subscribe to him right now. I don't care if you leave. Make sure you come back. And then it's also in our description as well. So everybody in here, if you're not subscribed to Skol State of Mind, go over there and subscribe right now.
Absolutely.
All right.
Jamie, you might like this. My first thought in my head was we were that close to a first down was CJ Ham dive.
Yeah.
That was my first
What
thought.
am I gonna do?
I like
Used to
CJ
work
Ham is
all
the
the
most.
time.
What's going on, Zoe?
And
Hey,
the
what up,
reason I
Zoe?
like the dive is because you're less like, the fullback dive is because you're less likely to lose yardage.
That's so.
'Cause you're only like 3 yards behind 4 yards behind line of scrimmage. So yeah,
But the thing
and run off the right side and not off of Reisner, who's our weakest run to our weakest.
True.
So
the thing that kind of makes me mad though is how you can't run a quarterback sneak these days without someone calling it a tush push anymore.
Right.
Because I feel like it was more of a traditional quarterback sneak with a little extra leverage from the small guy that you weren't expecting. I mean, I don't know. That's just one thing with me. It's like I think ours.
I'm like, if you're gonna run the
quarterback
push,
sneak,
run it exactly like the Eagles with 3 guys.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Pushing you.
Exactly.
Mullins has
Not
a
the
bad back,
smallest
remember?
guy, not the shortest guy on your team. 5'8".
Yeah,
I know, twice in a row. That's the one that threw me off. I don't know why you do the exact same thing twice with all the way to Brandon Powell, especially
we ran a traditional quarterback sneak earlier in the game and got it.
Yeah,
right.
Nobody pushing.
Yep.
And
it.
I mean Cincinnati called timeout too, so it was like we had time to think about it at the end of the third down because we would have gotten it. Yeah, I think we called hike and they called timeout right before it started, and we. Am I correct on that?
I don't think so. No, because
they did.
Because it was the
Or
whole
was it before the third down?
About calling a timeout. It must have been before third down.
Oh, okay. Because we did make it.
I guess the whole Flores thing about the timeout thing was to give them more time to review it.
Yeah, and it was already reviewed.
No, there
it was already
Cincinnati.
reviewed.
Cincinnati.
That was the
that pissed people off too.
That was the most overblown thing I have ever seen in my life. Because if KOC listens to him and calls the timeout like they thought he was saying, then people are going to be like, why does Kevin O'Connell have to listen to his defensive coordinator? Make that decision yourself, head coach.
It would always been something. Yeah, you're right.
Exactly.
Yeah,
the guy's in a lose-lose situation. I feel bad for him.
The hardest job in the NFL is an offense. Well, any type of play call or even defense. I couldn't imagine having to scan the field and then make the call or have a play ready and defensive coordinator. Oh shit, what personnel did they just put out there? I just can't imagine being, and I coached, but I couldn't imagine at that level of having to figure out all that shit and then call that. I'm like, go out there, play zone, guys, and then you blitz. These guys got all sorts of shit going on in their head.
Yeah,
or have to.
Which again, though, that's the job you signed up for, head coach and offensive play caller. So you can't really I don't know. I get it, and I think it's fair to criticize his play calling because it has been very inconsistent this year. And I think I've mentioned before, he's a phenomenal head coach. I think he's a great coach, great leader, knows football in and out. You can just tell when he talks that he knows what he's talking about. But again, if you're going to take on the role of your offensive coordinator / play caller, that's what that's what the fan base is going to know you as first and foremost, right? You're calling the plays. you are responsible for what we see on the football field. We don't care about we do, but we don't care about behind the scenes. You're responsible for what puts points on the board. And when we're not consistently getting points on the board, you're the first person to blame. And unfortunately,
let's go, Frozen.
Down to.
We were actually talking about Mike's sports vibes beforehand. Hopping on here.
If we're out of the playoffs, we're going full on T-Wolves channel.
Yep. Instantly go to T-Wolves.
I just think the situation with the play calling is like people always take it out of context. They don't look at the whole game or the whole career. It's just basically like situational football in situations. And I just think that's something that he has to work on.
Yeah,
like 4th and 1. Oh, we're in our territory. We're punting. And I think like once he gets like a feel with that, like you're going to make mistakes. And once he gets consistent and has, like, all right, we can get this done, we're going to be okay. But just like sometimes the fan base gets a whole lot crazy and it's just like, oh my God, call for the guy's job off of a couple of bad plays. Like, I'm over it. Move on. 3 games left. Let's get these W's, get in this playoffs.
One question. Anybody on here think we should have tried a field goal for 59?
No. I do not trust Greg Joseph.
There's only one guy I know that wanted us to kick a field goal.
Yeah.
That
was an obvious no to me. I didn't even think that as a scenario in that situation. Generally, I probably would have, but Greg Joseph, I mean, he hit the
30 seconds. Well,
he hit one last year or whatever. That was 60 yards or whatever. But he's outside of that. I mean, he's been not good beyond 50 yards.
No, not the last.
No.
Hey, Zoe, by the way, don't make us put you in a timeout. I can do that. We can do that here. Don't make us. Don't make that. Don't make me.
That is timeout words right there. The Wolves are the shit. The Wolves are the shit, and no one's gonna tell me different.
Man, you got Laker fans on here. You know that, right?
Oh boy, that's tomorrow.
Minneapolis West. I mean the Minneapolis Lakers West.
Hey, what up, Justin?
Not Justin.
I know the Lakers. That used to be us.
That's the cool thing about the Lakers. They have the same colors as the Vikings because they were Minneapolis.
Yeah.
So I can get Jordans in purple and gold.
It gets me every time though, because unless you live in Minnesota, if you see purple and gold, it's most likely going to be the Lakers.
Yeah.
But my head always just immediately goes to Vikings. So I'm like, oh, dang, Viking fan. And it's always a Lakers fan. I'm like, damn.
So are you from California then?
Yeah, I'm born and raised in LA and moved to San Bernardino about 8 years ago.
Yeah, because you're near SK.
Yeah, I mean SK in the same city.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. But yeah, to this game, I watched Kevin O'Connell's press conference today, and talking about Ty Chandler earlier and what the running back situation is going to be looking like going into this game. And based off of what he said, to me, it felt like he was implying that Ty Chandler was definitely going to get most of these carries and Madison would come.
Absolutely has to.
And that's what it should absolutely have. I mean, right? You guys agree that? I know Dave does for sure, but what do you think? Are you a little bit more on the Madison side?
I want to give carries a Naylor. What the hell?
Yeah. You're still on. Naylor dropped what he dropped his one reception attempt or whatever.
I expect big things next year.
So we said last year.
But and he's everything I said he is. He is everything I said he is. I am 100% correct with him. I guarantee that.
So what do you think, D-Will?
I just think at the end of the day, it's sometimes Kevin O'Connell makes these decisions and he's forced to make it just because Madison got hurt. And now it's you have to ride with the hot hand and Ty Chandler.
Oh yeah, I give no credit to him.
He had no choice.
No.
Yeah. And I just feel whatever we're not seeing in practice, I really don't care. If it's pass protection, is it whatever, I don't even care. That was our first running back this year to have over 100 yards
and a rushing
touchdown.
And his pass protection was phenomenal. I think he allowed 0 pressures.
He had an 80 point.
That's phenomenal.
I mean, he should be playing.
O'Connell pointed that out. He pointed that out in his press conferences that he's learning how to do that.
There's no doubt in my mind that is our starting running back. He's 25 years old. He's ready to go. He doesn't have a whole lot of whole lot of mileage on his tires because he was in a He was in a running back by committee at Tennessee.
And he
Got
hurt
hurt a little bit
hand
too.
last year or something like that, right?
And then they didn't run all that much in Carolina, and he still had 1,000 yards. And his other superpower is catching the football. There's nothing I don't like about this guy.
Yeah,
And I
especially that he's been able to show like that's
And
one
he
thing
throws
that
in the
worries.
spin move, getting extra yardage now.
I was more worried about him in like short yardage or just being from like a strength standpoint, and he's shown to be able to move bodies once he runs up the middle. So I mean,
quick.
man, he obviously, he's quick, 4.3, and we saw some of that. And I mean, these chunk plays, 20-yard runs that we haven't seen from Madison all year.
30,
But
that's I think that's what made the passing offense so efficient. Is that we were able to run the football and you weren't able to just key in on the passing game anymore.
Play action was working.
Like,
and the big difference between him and Dobbs is that if you go look at his college combine review or his scouting report, he's quick out of the play action. He's quick drop back out of the play action. And you'll see that when Dobbs, he would turn around and he's fading. And he's still dropping back. I mean, he gets to a spot, drop back, and he's ready. And that's what I like so much more about Mullins than I did about Dobbs, is he's not fading. He's not going 8-9 yards back, still reading the field. Our boy's already set. Mullins is already set, ready to throw the ball, and he does that even better out of play action. I said this before he started, and Rap did too, is that he's the closest thing to Kirk we have.
Oh, yeah.
It's just the decision making's not as good.
But he has
and
bigger
I think arm
balls.
strength too.
He has bigger balls than Kirk. For sure.
I said he plays like Kirk did in Buffalo, but all the time.
Yeah. But the decision, I mean, he's a backup quarterback for a reason, and he probably doesn't hit enough of those decision makings he does have or whatever. But
yeah, like the second touchdown to Addison, you're like, don't throw that. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I don't do that next time.
Yeah.
But the first one, it was like that looked like Kirk because he's falling down. He's taking the hit and getting rid of the ball, and it's in the most perfect spot. That was Kirk. And then the other one was like, no, Kirk would have thrown that shit away. You do not throw across your body like that, especially with all that time going by.
But then he tries to throw it away. That was
another play that was like, KOC, what the hell are you doing? We just got down there. We're on the half-yard line. It's first down. Run it.
Run the ball.
Yeah.
Do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's heartbreaking to just run at will on a team,
Yeah.
Mullins is a really good backup quarterback. Like he's the guy you want if you need to replace your starter for like 2 games at most. But when you need him to start for half a season, it's like, I mean, okay, he's going to be good, but nothing special.
Well, yeah, I know. You just know it's nice to have a guy where you're like, maybe he could turn into more than that. Like that's like the reason why anyone would want Jaron Hall is mostly not just to be able to see him, but it's like, what if he's good enough to be more than just a backup quarterback? And that's the reason why some people want him. Though
there's 2 things out there though, that he had the 5th most yards to start his career in the NFL history in 16 games. And like one guy ahead of him is Mahomes. So that's crazy.
Yeah, he looked good when he came.
The other one is he has the same amount of yards in the first 17 games of his career as what's his name from Indianapolis? The Colts.
Andrew Luck.
So he has the exact same amount of yards and only 1 less touchdown. Now throwing the picks, but
it's not.
So
that's not comparing to Luck, please.
But yeah, Frozen North. I mean, the turnovers, the first one, whatever. The second one, though, that was
like he's trying to throw it away when he's in the pocket anyway.
That's why he's a backup. You're gonna get what you
get.
Exactly.
I mean, those 2 situations are like, hey, well, here's what I thought about the second one, right? My freaking TV or my iPad went off, and I go look at my phone, and like, holy shit, we just threw a pick. What happened? And I able to get back on again. I'm seeing a replay, but I'm like, well, going into that, Justin Jefferson doesn't run out of bounds. I don't know why he didn't do that. He had 2 guys ahead of him. He's not getting to the first down. And then we're third down. And those 2 things that should have, you don't take a sack because we may not be able to kick the field goal, get our guy on the field to kick the field goal in time. And then why not just run a 5-yard quick hitter? If it's not there, it's out of bounds. And I think that's also on KOC. You got a backup quarterback on 3rd down with less than 30 seconds to go. He gets sacked. That's what you didn't want to happen.
Yeah.
You got to instruct him in his helmet. We're running this play to get a few more yards. Hit it or throw it out of bounds. And I give a lot to that to KOC. In the 1 yard line where even though it was a miracle touchdown to Addison, because you think the worst shit's going to happen.
Right,
Those two plays were, I think, a lot to do with coaching. With you had a backup quarterback, run a play or know the situation and don't put him in those situations.
Well, or I'm telling him like scan the field. If it's not there, don't scramble around and make a risky throw to the end zone, which he didn't. It worked out. I'm telling him, you look once. If your guy's not there, you roll out, throw it out of bounds. We run the next.
But you got to have it. Well, don't even make it a roll out because you can't trust that. You can't trust the roll. You got to have like a guy over there so you don't get intentional grounding. You know what I'm saying?
Right. At this point in the season,
it's got to be a one read or just check down, throw
exactly. That's what I was saying.
That's what it is.
Then run the ball on 2nd down, and then 3rd down, you do whatever you want if you don't get it.
At this point in the season, man, I think he should just play the way he has to. Like even him rolling out and doing what he did with Addison. I think that's like the shit that like the top quarterbacks can do. Yeah, I mean, you should choose your thing, but hey, at the end of the day, no matter what, we have
it's too late for install right now. We're trying to win games.
Right. And I get that. But I mean,
if you go into playoffs, honestly, that's the kind of guy, even though
when he was rolling out on the half-yard line, you were like, yes.
No,
roll out.
I was
let's go across your body. Let's do
it.
Right.
I was really excited when it happened.
I mean, I was like, hey, awesome. That was awesome. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, no, yes.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Every one of us was like,
I don't think it's
no, yes.
But like D Will said, like we just gotta win games. Like if we go into playoffs, there's a chance. Like honestly, that's the kind of play style. Like I want someone to go out there who's trying to just go and win this game. And you know what? He might end up throwing 3 interceptions. It might be terrible. And we might get smoked on.
But it is what it is right now. It's where we at.
Yeah, it's where we're at.
It's where we at.
If we're gonna go in.
After he threw 2 picks in the red zone.
If we're going to go in the playoffs and win some games there, it's not going to be by extremely conservative offensive play. Right. It's just not going to happen.
But it wasn't extremely conservative the whole game. But my thought process during that sequence was throw it out of bounds. Throw it out of bounds. What the hell are you doing? Okay, touchdown. Nice. Terrible decision. I appreciate the calls though. I really do, man. Like I credit you for that. But terrible decision making. Like one of those scenarios, but
right.
But what
you respect? You gotta respect.
You do, yeah.
I have to give him credit for that touchdown. I get a half touchdown on that.
A half a touchdown
because the result.
Oh, we still talking about Dobbs? Come on now.
No, I know. Dobbs, he can't get the ball. I mean, look at Jordan Addison get 111 yards and 2 touchdowns.
And then we were expecting Kevin O'Connell to sculpt a brand new offense around a mobile quarterback. Like I get it, you toss in a play or two, but even a bye week, you can't install that much type of. But anyway. Since we're on, we'll try to make this sequence go by as quick as possible because we know when this topic comes up, since we're talking quarterbacks, it can take about an hour of the show. What's your thoughts on Kirk Cousins? Go.
Okay, I'm a Kirk guy all the way through. Like Kirk's my guy. I mean, I used to tell guys all the time like his best ability is availability, but he finally got hurt. But like moving on. But I just feel like if Kirk, his agent, and the team can get something that's team friendly for him to come back on maybe like a 1 or 2 year deal, I'm all for it because it's like I feel they're going to draft a quarterback in the draft anyway. I'm not saying they're going to draft it high. They're going to probably identify their guy in whatever round they find them at, and they're going to have like Kirk Cousins, send them off. But I'm cool with it. Like I would love to see Kirk Cousins come back. I mean, he's a lot older. I'm liking the way he's been with KOC, with his leadership, and he's a little bit more quirky. He's on the media a little bit more, like his personality. Like I like Kirk Cousins, so I will want him back straight up.
Do you still want to get a?
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, are you still on team like? Are you on like bring Kirk Cousins back and he's your guy, or bring Kirk Cousins back but still draft a quarterback early?
Yeah, no, not draft the quarterback. Yeah, I don't necessarily like say draft a quarterback early because the thing about it is like people always say like draft a quarterback early. Like it's not about drafting early. It's about identifying the guy for your offense that's going to come in and, be Kirk Cousins' successor. That
Right.
might be a guy in the third round. There might be a guy in the second round. Like, we never know.
We
But
may
just
already
as-
have him.
Yeah,
No,
I think they do. I think Hall is the guy. That's why I want
Yeah.
to see him so bad.
Yeah,
But,
I want to.
I would like to see him too. This is my thought with there, and let me ask you that as like a follow-up. Is my thoughts behind putting Hall in there and rather than Mullins was, hey, I got a chance of making the playoffs, but I also have a chance of making the playoffs and find out if I got my successor.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm gonna lean on the two, the bigger payoff. And what do you think about that?
My thing with Hall is like this though. It's like when we had that carpet ride in 2017, we had Case Keenum, no contract off the books. We had Teddy Bridgewater, no contract off the books. We had Sam Bradford, no contract off the books. And the Vikings, the Vikings were basically forced to reach one way or another. And I'm saying like reach, it was either reaching the draft and end up with a Christian Ponder because you need a quarterback, or you overpay for a quarterback in free agency, which led us Kirk Cousins. Now, I'm happy Kirk Cousins came here because he was supposed to be that missing piece, but I would rather play Hall the next couple of games so we can see what we have. Is he a backup? Is he a starter? Do we have to scrap this whole project or whatever? Because technically he's the only quarterback on this roster that has a contract outside of this season. And to me, like, that's way important, because if he doesn't play, he just goes in that same book of the unknown of you don't know. And then you're going to reach one way or another again.
I thought Mullins had another year. I thought he signed.
Nah, he's done after this year
must
too.
Be the second year of the 2-year contract.
Yeah, dude. I 100% agree with that. I've been wanting to see more of Hall, and it is like, at this point in the season, I think if we lose this week, I can't imagine we don't see him the next game. If we feel like we can't, if we're not going to make playoffs, it just doesn't make any sense not to see what you have in Hall, I think.
No, we got Mullins next year.
But
you got more this year?
But you can't go with the
2024 Mullins.
You can't go with the, like, we don't feel like we can't make the playoffs if there's still an opportunity to make the play. And that's the thing.
Yeah,
I know
depends, that is tough.
It all depends on how you, like, if Mullins comes in and makes two boneheaded decisions like he did last week, and that's what loses you the football game, then yes, if you're Kevin O'Connell, you're like, okay, it's just, this ain't working. He's made the same mistakes. When you put a rookie out there and he makes those mistakes, at least you're like, yeah, he's a rookie. He'll learn this eventually. But when you have a veteran who started games in the league before, and that's what happens, you're like, this is why you're a backup. You're a good backup quarterback. Like, a team would love to have you as their backup, but this is exactly why you're a backup quarterback. And then also, when it comes from a head coaching perspective, like, if you put Hall out there and he's absolutely ass, right? And he's just terrible, you lose all your games, and he's terrible. And then the front office looks at you like, why did you decide to put this guy out there? Like, at least we know what Nick Mullins is. You put this guy out there and he completely just screwed the pooch. What are you thinking? So I think in a way, when you're head coach, you do need to weigh the checks and balances. And there's a reason he was the backup over Dobbs. I do think that they see something in him and they trust him more than Dobbs to run this offense. But at the same time, like, maybe they just think like, hey, he's not ready for this. Because I'm thoroughly convinced if Nick Mullins is not on IR at the time, we don't trade for Dobbs, Hall doesn't start that game, and Mullins has been our guy since Atlanta. Like, that's just kind of my thought process there. But
I think so too.
But it's interesting. Yeah. But it's definitely interesting. Like, that is the big thing though. Like, what if Hall comes out and he plays fantastic? And
that's what happened.
And then if you're Kevin O'Connell, like, dude, you're pretty damn smart. Here's a contract.
Think about what went on. We had Dobbs. People are buying his jersey, putting space helmets on.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
He gets slimed by Nickelodeon.
Yeah,
and here we are. He's our third QB. Talk about like.
And that's the thing. It doesn't feel like.
I was thinking maybe he gets an Emmy or a Grammy.
You know what it was though, Dave? I feel like there's a part of this fan base that basically hate Kirk Cousins so much that they just wanted anybody else besides Kirk Cousins. So the next guy that actually won a game and showed a flash, they just ran to it. And then it blew up. That's what happened.
There was a few people that weren't like that though. There's a few people that were really into it, but yeah, I know there's other people that I also saw like, yeah, these are the Kirk haters. But yeah, there were some people that were really good with Kirk, but there were still the ones on. But they were like the super purple Kool-Aid dudes. And yeah, they were buying space helmets and
Nah,
Yeah,
I never went that guy to play a game at all.
I mean, it was cool to see, but obviously he kind of showed what he is, which is a backup quarterback. But that's the thing is like that's why I'm like I'm not sure if they know what they want, because having Dobbs continue to play and then putting him right back to third string and then bringing up Mullins and stuff. I don't know. It just doesn't make me feel.
He was an emergency
that made
quarterback.
sense to
That's
me
all he
because
was.
you already had faith in Hall.
Right.
He was the starter.
Well, I get
He
why
only
they're
lost
doing
his
it,
job.
but
He was starter for one game, but he only lost his job because of injury, and that's what reason. I said Dobbs coming in to hold a clipboard, and I'll stick to that. I don't think we had any intention of starting him. I think Mullins would have came back. He would have been a quarterback after that.
But Dave, what if Mullins has a catastrophe of a game, like two fumbles, 2 interceptions, and like we can't score? Like, do you think like KOC has the brass to say, let's go ahead and put the rookie in and see what happens?
He has to. I think I don't see. I mean, no matter what, like, what do you? That's like what even to what Casey's saying. I mean, if you put a rookie quarterback in, I think you're just trying to figure out what you have. Then putting in, Nick.
We've already seen it.
We
saw the Bears game. We saw the Bears game.
We
saw the Bears game, and he brought Dobbs back for the next game after a bye. So yeah, we've already seen it. So I think he gives Mullins more than one game, unless it's like a 100-yard game or a 60-yard game like Dobbs had, I guess. But I don't see Mullins throwing anything less than 250 when he goes out there. Yeah, probably. But yeah, I just knowing the history of KOC, no, he goes. Yeah, we have to be out of the playoffs for him to start. Mathematically out of the playoffs for him to start. Hall, I think.
Think so? I don't know. I hope not.
But like Frozen North, I see your point here, but at the same time, like think about this. Like you spend a whole offseason worth of putting in your game plan and your scheme, and you have the full offseason programs to get your offense ready to play that offensive scheme. So you're expecting a guy who has played 8 weeks in a completely different offense to come here, learn the offense, and then that you expect the head coach to then adjust the offense to that quarterback's strengths. Well, all along, kind of knowing that he didn't, like Dave said, I don't think there was any intention of him actually starting. Like, I don't know, man. I get it, but at the same time, like, I don't think it's fair to blame Kevin O'Connell and the offensive staff for not being able to cater your offense to Josh Dobbs. And it's also not fair to expect Josh Dobbs to come in and learn a completely new playbook in that short amount of time and get chemistry with his receivers. So
that's
the whole situation was just weird to begin with, and the fact that it worked as long as it did was surprising.
What if Hall comes in and he just balls out? And you been wasting time with Dobbs and Nick Mullins, because last year that's what happened with Sam Howell in the Washington, to the point where next year he was their quarterback. He played like the last week and balled out, and then now look at him.
Well, it would make more sense with Hall though, because Hall knows the offense. He's been here all offseason. Like I would see that point.
Yeah. I'm just saying that's like a scenario too that I just don't have trust enough in Mullins, to be honest. I'm not
even after the first game. Well, obviously,
Dobbs, that's why I was talking about Dobbs in that.
So, like the first game, Dobbs came and he looked terrible. I stated this. I was like, to start the game, right? So I said he was worse than I ever expected and better than I ever expected, because the fourth quarter and that 2-minute drill, he totally turned it around crazy. It was all him, and then he only had one more excellent quarter, and that was against the Saints, the second quarter. Other than that, there wasn't much to go off of. Like, he maybe had a decent first half against Denver. It was good, right? It was good. And we started to run the ball well too at that point. So that was, it's like he went downhill. The more he learned the offense, the worse we got, it seemed, right? It's like
he just wasn't. I just feel like when it came to Dobbs, he's just not a good quarterback. There's a reason why he's been on multiple teams, and for guys to be
anticipation.
And yeah, exactly, he's get guys killed, and he's always late and being high, and all that stuff being said. It's just like people. Oh, I don't like KLC because he wants to make Dobbs cousins, and it's like, what do you expect? Like if the guy runs out of the pocket, he's probably going to fumble. If he throws a pass that's longer than 15 yards, it's probably intercepted. So of course, like, the offense is going to be vanilla because the guy can't really run an offense, an NFL offense like that. That's the reason why he's been on multiple teams. But people were just enamored with, oh, he can get out the pocket and run. That doesn't win games all the time. It really doesn't.
Yeah, I agree. And then Frozen North, to be fair, we would have seen the same amount of games that Josh Dobbs had with Justin Jefferson that Nick Mullins had with Justin Jefferson if Josh Dobbs didn't get Justin Jefferson killed and sent to the hospital. They both would have had one opportunity with Justin Jefferson. Guess what?
Dobbs is.
We saw
Dobbs can't take advantage of our offensive talent. That's just as simple as it gets.
We saw the throws Mullins was making. Everything was
on time,
right there. With anticipation. And I saw with Dobbs, the reason why he was having to throw rockets all the time and they were bouncing, and to be fair, there was a lot of drop balls in that last game with him, but a lot of it's because he doesn't throw with anticipation and he's throwing it late. So he's got to throw it hard to the spot because he's not reading it as fast as Mullins. And I think it attests to him being slow in his dropbacks or just just not consistent with his dropbacks or fading in his dropbacks. Because he's 10 yards back on and these dropbacks, so he's just late. That's why he was having to throw cannons. You see Mullins throwing a touch. That was the thing coming out of his scouting report is that he threw such a catchable football. He was anticipatory and he just threw a catchable football. That was the thing coming out of college. And this is a dude that threw 38 touchdowns and 4,000 yards as junior year college.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, the Minnesota Vikings quarterback situation is absolutely fucked this season. That's the way to go. None of them are good. None of them are
all.
good.
I mean,
we still don't know about Hall though.
Backup quarterbacks in the world, but they're just not starting quarterbacks. And yeah, we need a starter in this scenario with a good defense. Now, I mean, Flores needs to come back. It'll suck so bad. Like the not having a quarterback during the Flores season.
He's saying he says he threw TJ the same hospital ball as Dave Watch plays. Sorry, anyway.
It is what it is, man. Everyone has a different opinion, and at the end of the day, no one's ever going to be happy because we're Vikings fans. It's hard to be happy.
Hopefully, Mullins continues balling out.
I think I'm being objective when Dobbs got 60 yards passing and Mullins got 80 yards and only 2 drives. So I'm like, I think I'm being relatively objective here.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know.
What's up?
It'll be really, but that's the thing. It's like it'll be really interesting to see what direction they go at the quarterback position for next year. A lot of different options, and here's the thing: Kwesi did the thing I thought he was doing from the jump. He was setting himself up throughout the last offseason to do whatever. Every avenue was open to him this upcoming year. Hall could be your guy. Kirk Cousins could come back, or you could draft somebody. From not signing Kirk Cousins, you opened up every single avenue possible going into next year. And guess what? Those are all still open, and they're all still very real possibilities. And you might have a little bit of leverage as it comes to Kirk Cousins injury if that's the direction you decide to go. But anyway, super fun.
Well, that's a good point.
Really fun off season.
That's a good point, Casey. Is like we were thinking we didn't sign Justin Jefferson, we didn't sign Kirk Cousins, extend them, that we lost all our leverage, and then they got hurt. And now we got our leverage back. And so it's almost like erased that whole situation. And now we're going into the season where these guys realize what it's like to, your career could be over at any time. And that's a little bit of motivation to like, okay, I need to sign a decent contract here. I'm comfortable with Minnesota. Let's do it here. So we'll see.
So Frozen North, my argument though, is like, if I took you from your regular job and I gave you a brand new job and I said 2 weeks, you got to be an expert in this job. Are you going to be able to do that?
No.
That's the thing with Josh Dobbs.
I'm being so mean to Frozen North, man. Jesus.
You brought Josh Dobbs in here and you expect him to learn a brand new offense in 2 weeks. Like, I just don't think it's fair to blame Kevin O'Connell for that.
Damn it. I'm with Frozen North. Bring back Dobbs.
I can't be on that. I love.
But you got to understand, like with the Dobbs situation, like Dobbs was traded to Arizona to do one job. Lose games so they can have a higher draft pick. And
they start winning after he leaves.
And they start, like, if you think about it, like, okay, Kyler Murray is not going to play to half of the season. We need to build something around this team because we're already paying Kyler. We need a legit number one receiver. Who can we bring in that can actually prop up to lose a couple of games but be competitive? let's go get Josh Dobbs. Like he did what the Arizona Cardinals wanted him to do, and that's it. So the Dobbs situation is done. I hope he never plays in purple ever again. Let's just move on, please. These guys are just too much with this Dobbs shit.
Yeah,
I think I'm with Kurt Warner. When nobody's open and there's no time to throw, passing isn't realistic. I don't think the thing with Dobbs is the reason why he was getting. I mean, he couldn't throw deep, so they were able to stack the box and bring the pressure every single play and cover short, and that's all they did, and that's the reason why he was getting punished. And as soon as Nick Mullins came in the what game was that? What's the game was before Cincinnati?
the
Raiders. The Raiders.
Raiders, yeah. In that Raiders game, as soon as Nick Mullins came in there, the Raiders had to immediately. He threw a ball right down the middle to T.J. Hawkinson that did get tipped, but went into T.J. Hawkinson's hands. After that play, they had to pull all their players off because they weren't going to be able to bring on the pressure every single time. Otherwise, Nick Mullins was going to be able to get the ball to his playmakers. And even last week ever since the Broncos game, it was immediate. The Bears the next week had their best blitzing pressure game of the entire season. And it was just because Dobbs can't throw long. That's the reason why people weren't able to get open. That's the reason why he was getting pressured so much. And it's different with Nick Mullins because Nick Mullins can beat these teams deep. And even just against Cincinnati, they weren't able to bring the pressure as constant as they were against Dobbs.
And if you look at the play where JJ got hurt,
actually came after me on Twitter.
Oh yeah, that's right.
They
did have Kurt Warner.
So I had Kurt Warner come after me on Twitter, and I answered him, and he didn't reply back. And anyways, then I go back and look at his video again. I like the first three plays is like the first one was, well, who do you have to throw here? And I'm like, this guy and this guy, because they were comebackers, and he throws with anticipation. He hits them, but he doesn't. He holds the ball. He tries to run. He gets sacked. And then there's another play, and he's like, who do you by the time this, the tight end blocks a little bit, chip blocks and goes out, wide ass open up the seam. He goes, but yeah, he comes wide open, but does he have the time? Yeah, he had like 2 seconds. He had 2 seconds. That's how long it took his tight end to get free. And then he gets sacked again. I'm like, right there, the first two of the first 3 plays, he's talking about how Dobbs has nobody to throw to. There's guys open. So yeah, and then I'm like, but I didn't have the time to go break down his 20 plays that he's challenging all us noobs out there to tell him that that Dobbs should still be starting for us. And when I put it out to the Vikings Twitter, 92% said KOC made the right decision.
But here's also the thing then. Box scores, quarterbacks, how well they play on the offensive side. It's spark. There was no spark with Josh Dobbs in there. The team, you could tell the team did not trust Josh Dobbs as their quarterback. Because as soon as it switches up to Nick Mullins, there was that spark again. Like people cared.
Well,
players are playing harder. Like it's a thing. If you don't
offensive
trust the
line.
guy behind you, take a snap, throw in the football.
He almost killed JJ. The players are
complaining about the offensive line, and it had all to do with his dropbacks.
Exactly.
All to do with his dropbacks and him not being in the same place. These guys are blocking with their backs to the quarterback. The defensive are seeing the quarterback. And if you're not dropping to the right spot on every single play, these guys are blocking wrong, for you. And that's how you're going to get trouble. And I wasn't the first person to say that. It was 3 weeks ago people were saying that about Dobbs, and I was agreeing with them. But that was the epitome of it, was that last game. And honestly, I thought he played better in that game than he did it against the Bears. I actually thought he played better because they were dropping balls. But again, half of it's because he's having to throw rockets because he's late. But that's my thought process.
Yeah. But anyway,
me and Kurt Warner, man, we're tight now. And I replied back, big fan.
Yeah, I saw that.
I would have just.
Wait, how is it opposite the idea Dobbs is the problem if they didn't want to if a new quarterback comes in and causes a spark? Yes, Dobbs is the problem.
It changes everything.
Yeah,
it changes everything.
It's a leadership perspective. It's I don't know, man. There's a reason. There's a reason for that. And Dobbs
got 420 yards with Mullins the day Mullins starts.
Yeah.
But let's be
there.
real.
We made the right decision.
We've been arguing Josh Dobbs versus Nick Mullins for the last probably 20 minutes.
Rival you got with Frozen North. We're trying to back you up.
If either of those
backing
two,
you up with this rivalry you got with Frozen North.
if either of those two are starting quarterback next year, we fucked up, and Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi should both be fired. We just clean house, sell the team, and move on from this whole situation. You got to be able to do better than those. If you can't, there's a problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
An absolute problem.
I'm bringing about this Kurt Burkhardt who plays Madden, ex NFL quarterback.
He is not equal spark. I mean, kind of does. We were pretty lethargic with Dobbs out there. I don't know. I've seen urgency, and urgency is not when Dobbs is out there. I'm sorry to say it.
I think at the end of the day, too, with Dobbs, it's just like we've already mentioned it, but he's just not made for this offense. And it was obvious that KOC wasn't going to be able to tailor it to Dobbs' skill sets.
And that's fine.
And no matter, regardless, that was going to happen. If you continue starting Dobbs, it was going to be the same issue. So,
and we ran a couple of read
that can
options,
do that.
and they effed it up. We ran a read option, and he
can't play, Dave. like people need to understand, like, Dobbs isn't a good quarterback. If he was a good quarterback, he would have stayed in a lot of those teams that basically traded him away or just released him. He's not a good quarterback. To try to keep holding on to a guy that's a journeyman is he on like his sixth team already? Like, you actually really think he was going to come in here and make his offense better just because he can run? It's ridiculous. The whole Dobbs situation, run its course, moving on. Now that Mullins is the guy, let's see what we have. Is win these 3 games. Like, Dobbs' situation is over. The experiment is done.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
Mullins
just
is better. I don't think Mullins is better than Kirk.
No. Oh my God.
No. The thing with Mullins, I mean, that game was he threw the 2 interceptions, and without those 2 interceptions, we probably win. But it was definitely the defense allowing 3 touchdowns in a row.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
I mean, we went after those picks. We went up 17-3.
Yeah,
Now there's the rumor that Kevin O'Connell is telling Brian Flores to play soft at the end of games.
People make shit up. I just people make shit up. I
100% can definitely say that KOC is loving the pressure and loving what Flores is doing.
Yeah.
And he's vocal about it.
You just got to understand, like things happen. Like when you play football in NFL, everyone gets tape. Everyone gets tape of tendencies of what these people do, whatever. Like Cincinnati just figured something out, and I just hope Flores can go into the Detroit game and actually tweak those things, because whatever is on tape against Cincinnati, Detroit's probably going to use. So it's not a big deal. It happens. I mean, 2017, we had the best defense, and Philadelphia Eagles figured this out. Like, it happens. Like, it's not that big of a deal. It's just find somebody to blame, and it's like, come on now.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
And 2017, the Saints exposed the Mike Zimmer defense. Yes. It was never the same after that.
Yeah. You're right. The Saints did it first.
Never the same.
Yeah. But in this game, you just got to tip your hats off to Browning and T. Higgins.
T. Higgins,
we could not, at the end of the game there, we could just not we were bringing the pressure. It was looking good. We just could not bring Browning down. And he was able to escape a little bit and throw a pass up to T. Higgins, who ends up having like these amazing catches. And that's what kind of screwed us at the end. Flores does bring the blitz, but if the quarterback is able to evade it,
to beat the blitz, this is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. That's what happened in this scenario. And we were like this. How many times were this close to get Browning down, and he just.
Yeah,
isn't that similar to the Charger game?
Probably Blackman for celebrating instead of going to actually try to defend the ball. You know, see when Blackman, the T. Higgins, it was a T. Higgins that got that touchdown with the
first touchdown.
Blackman sitting there celebrating.
Yeah.
But anyways, you guys mentioned Detroit. We're an hour into this thing. We haven't even talked about the game yet.
Hey, you brought up the quarterback thing. You even said
this was a personal chat.
Yeah, you said it.
This was Frozen North's personal chat line for a while.
What I said was, let's get through this as quick as possible. D Woods, what's
mean,
your thoughts on Kirk Cousins? I never said anything about anybody else.
Yeah, you
Talked
know
about
how that
Kirk Cousins, and then we
goes.
started talking about Josh Dobbs, Nick Mullins, people in the comments.
That's how it is.
Talked
That's
about
how it is.
people in the comments, and now we're back here an hour in talking about the Lions game.
Did Dave just say he was too busy for Kurt Warner? Hey, Dave's a big deal.
What do you guys have?
People.
Why
Come on.
are people jumping on Dave tonight? My God.
Hey, Dave, I'm not in the chat today. That's why he's talking. Because last time I was on Dave's chat, I had him leaving, so it's okay.
I had him leaving the week before too.
Yeah, so this is what it is. But the Detroit game it's a must win. I feel like that. The one thing, like I look at their stats or whatever, like they basically are going to have this season 2,000-yard rushers in the same season with two different guys. Like I haven't seen that in a long time. Like even though they're the Lions and they're a rival, like I want to see that because I feel like if that happens, it's probably going to bring, more attention back to running backs because that's how they're winning games. And we're not that great against the run. So if we can contain that a little bit, I think we can be okay.
Yeah.
Because
I'm going to burst your bubble there. We're 5th in the league against the run.
Well, now, I mean, we've had some, but there's been games where we've been terrible. The reality is the
Eagles and then
was
who?
the worst game I've ever seen against.
Dude, no,
against
I think
where we are, we're 5th against the run. We looked it up last night.
I know, but who have we played? Who have we played?
That has this kind of running attack.
We played teams in the NFL.
But Josh Jacobs got hurt.
Josh Jacobs, yeah, he did get hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't played really good running backs this year at all.
No, we won.
And the ones that did, I mean, we've gotten beat up in the middle quite a bit. I mean, obviously, we don't have the size and everything in the middle. This is going to be. I am definitely mostly afraid of the running backs. Their running backs going in this game. And they got. I mean, they're just two totally different ones. With Montgomery, I mean, he can just eat up those small yards all day long in the middle. And then Jamar Gibbs obviously can kind of do a little bit of everything, but you do have to worry about the little short passes and screens and all that kind of stuff with him. So I'm worried about that. But then on the other side, I mean, you still have St. Brown and you still have Laporta and I mean that's scary. I do think though in these last few weeks, other than last game, Josh Dobbs. Oh, good job, Frozen. Jared Goff has not. He's been looking pretty shaky at some points, a lot of points in these games, and he's making some bad decisions. And I do think that's coming from the pass rush. So I think if we're gonna win this game on defense, I do think we have to bring some pressure on Goff the best way we can.
I need your guys' advice here. So last week, I'm moving on to the second round of the playoffs. Right?
RAP in the building.
Last week I started Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Sam Laporta. They got me like 90 points in one game.
Oh yeah, same.
What do? Do I play them against my Vikings, or I mean, you kind of have to after that.
No, you got to be biased.
Yeah, man.
Anytime I'm not biased, I lose.
Right, I'm keeping them in there, but I'm sitting there like, if the Vikings win this game, well, they could still play well. I don't know, we'll see. But
I mean, yeah, because I think this is going to be. I mean, when it comes to score predictions and stuff, I think this is going to be a high scoring game, and I think it's gonna. If we win this game, it's going to be because our offense is rolling, and Kevin O'Connell's doing good play calls, and Nick Mullins isn't throwing for 3 interceptions, but he's still
interceptions. Only 2.
He's 2 or 3 interceptions, but he's still like doing what he has to do to get that ball down the field because we're gonna need it in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this offense, man. Their defense isn't like, obviously they've had some injuries and stuff, but they got a couple studs up front, which I'm a little bit worried about. Hopefully the offensive line can hold up, but yeah, mainly just like that offense versus our defense is going to be and I guess. Dave, were you talking about how Brian Flores has been pretty solid against Jared Goff in his career? Someone put that out on Twitter today.
I saw someone put that out, but
I saw it too.
Since you brought me up, I think Christian McCaffrey's probably a pretty good running back, right?
Yeah.
All right, he's one. We
15
did hold
45
him.
yards, 3 yards per carry.
We did hold him.
We held him pretty good.
Yeah.
Pacheco, we held Kansas City like 60 yards. We held the Packers.
The ones that I'm mostly worried about are the ones that can eat up the middle. It's the middle ones, though. It's the ones that will eat up the middle, which we haven't really faced a lot of difficult players like that, like the Derrick
Packers.
Henrys, the Packers.
Dylan.
Dylan, he's
Yeah, we
kind of.
held
I mean,
their team to 70 yards.
He's been pretty weak this year.
I'm just saying
They ain't
you
got
just
Rodgers
say that we
back
didn't
there.
play anybody that
I don't
ran
know.
the ball, and
I
then,
think our offense. I think our running defense has been definitely actually pretty good, a lot better than I expected this year. But I think if I'm an opposing offense and I have a good running backs, I do feel like that's what I try to do. But I do think, I don't know, it's hard. I think Flores is just so good at scheming for specific teams, and that could be just difficult when you do have Laporta and you do have St. Brown in this game with the running backs, and you have Goff, who, if he's playing well, can be, well,
that's why they're 10-4.
really
But
solid
Goff
quarterback.
has thrown picks and has cost
What up,
them
JJ?
games. And they
Yeah, he
didn't
has.
play very well against the Bears, right? So they, scored 12 points against the Bears. So I talked about this last night, is that's where we got to do is hold that's the key to us winning.
Yeah.
Is not letting them run the ball and control the clock,
Right.
and have
right.
their Goff be the guy to beat us. Yeah, sure, they got a few good targets, but so do we, and I think we have better defense. So it would be, I think whoever wins the turnover battle in this game, and I know we've lost a lot of that, probably wins this game, I think.
Do you think we can?
Our defense is better than their defense, and our offenses can,
as long as our quarterback can, it's really up to Nick Mullins, I guess. And if he can play a little bit better than
but that's what has to happen. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen.
And I do want to mention that according to PFF, the Detroit Lions have the third worst coverage grade in the NFL. So, I mean, hopefully we can take advantage of that.
Test them often.
Yes.
It's going to be a big one.
Do you think we can shut them down like Baltimore did?
I don't know, man. It's going to be tough.
We need Goff to suck. I mean, if Goff is playing like the way he is in those games.
But that's the biggest thing, though. Pressure him. Like, you got to be able to get pressure.
And if anyone's going to do it, it's us. We just need to get home. We need to get home to him.
Rattle him a little bit. You got to rattle him.
Yeah. We need to smack him. We need Ivan Pace Jr. to run through his face.
Yeah.
And then we're looking pretty.
Is Hicks going to play? Or
he wants to. That was what he said at his press conference yesterday. He said
I looked earlier and I didn't see they hadn't updated it yet. Let me look.
It sounds like, I mean, based off what KOC said, it sounds like it definitely there's some optimism, but it's not like a for sure thing yet or anything.
Which, by the way, I guess I didn't 100% understand what happened during his surgery, but apparently they said his leg was split open for 4 days or something like that.
How about no? Do the Vikings ever run quick slants? They definitely need to know, but they literally don't. So I don't think they're going to anytime soon. Even though they should. Like Jordan Addison, I just feel like you should be using him in that kind of area, but I guess he's just gonna have to take, touch.
But Jordan Hicks is a full practice.
Oh, he was? Nice.
Full practice. Wow.
Yeah.
The only guy on the injury report that is full practice. And let me look. No. Marcus Davenport.
Yeah.
Why are we even talking about that guy?
All right, we got 15 minutes segment on Marcus Davenport.
which by the way, I was people were saying give Ivan Pace the number 0. I'm like, you gotta let him play for a season before you decide that. But I'm all in now. He deserves it at this point.
There's no way we keep.
I want to keep him at 40.
Tell Davenport you don't.
You want to keep him at 40?
Yeah, I want to keep him at 40. I
hate the number 0.
I think he's gonna be 0. I bet you any money once Davenport is gone. It'd be crazy if he sticks around after this year.
No,
I think he switches to 0. I think he will. So that's why I'm like, nobody should. I wouldn't try to buy his jersey until you find out what he's gonna do with that.
Yeah,
because as soon as he picks 0, he's sticking with it and definitely getting a jersey.
I wouldn't take 0 after Davenport.
Gonna go through the roof, baby. Crazy. What else though? What else coming up with this Lions game that got you? I mean, getting pressure on Goff isn't that? I mean, it's easier said than done because that Lions offensive line is young and solid. Yeah. It's gonna be tough to get through there. But I do think that is the key to the game because Goff has shown us in the past, if you can rattle him, he will make mistakes, and that's with the elite talent they have on that offense. I guess it comes down to stopping the run first, and then when you do have the opportunities, rattle them. Get him
Yeah.
rattled.
And luck, I mean, that man, we just got to feel so good with Flores just because you can feel so confident about his schemes and him coming in and scheming for the other teams. Like he's just been doing it. It sucked what happened at the end of the last game, but man, I mean, that's kind of an outlier of these last handful of weeks. I mean, he hasn't allowed a touchdown in the other 3 games. So, I mean, you do feel it's nice this year that we can feel a little confident that there's a chance he goes in there and there's a chance that he doesn't allow them to do a lot to us.
I hope so.
But yeah, it's
I just hope it doesn't turn into the Charger game all over again, where one guy gets over 200 yards receiving.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Like, because that could happen.
It could, yeah.
And if it does happen, let it be on Monroe St. Brown. Davin, let's come back.
He's literally has Laporta, St. Brown, and Gibbs starting.
If they're gonna kill us, at least get it to those 3 again, please. At least those 3. But it ain't gonna happen.
Outside of
help me win.
I mean, outside of Zoe, actually, no, I would say Casey's the bigger Detroit Lions fan over Zoe.
I'm not a Detroit Lions fan.
Wow, you guys give Zoe shit too about being a Lions fan? Oh my God. Zoe, I'm so sorry, man. Everyone's doing it.
But Casey's bigger.
Yeah, I didn't hear Zoe.
He's starting 3 players.
Just because I said I didn't hate the Lions.
No, you're starting 3 players against the Vikings this week. That's crazy.
Is he betting on them too?
Probably.
Actually, in our picks league, I did pick.
Wait.
Hey,
man, you got.
I didn't expect him to admit to shit like that.
Backstaged.
Let me explain here.
Put him at the bottom.
Let me explain. So
he does.
I'm in a picks league, right? And I'm in first place. I'm in first place by 4 games, position. Right? So I need to pick the favorites and do what everybody else is going to do, so that I can win that, because then I get some good money from that. So that's the only reason.
That's the only reason.
Make him small. I'm sorry. Down here. That's where we got him now. Yeah. Okay, there we go.
Hey,
that's more like it.
All I know is score predictions is gonna get interesting. Score predictions is gonna get interesting.
I'll just shut up.
All right. Yeah. All right. Speaking of score predictions, we're about hour 15 in here. Let's do that and get out of here. What are we thinking? We're gonna start with you, D Will. What are you thinking? And then we'll get D Wood. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
Everybody in here again. Justin Jefferson rookie card. Get your hashtag Skols in the comments. Like the video. And go subscribe to Skol State of Mind. The link is in the description. All that good stuff. Yeah.
24-17 Vikings. Straight
Ooh.
up. That's what it's going to be. 24-17.
Okay, good deal. Dave, what do you got?
We'll end with
I had 27-24 yesterday. Vikings. We're going to win it.
I really like the 27. So I'm going to go.
And by the way, I'm going to be on that NFL Outdated show. And that Lions fan over there is so cocky. So,
yeah, we did a Lions show.
Man.
Me and Zoe did a Lions Lions show last night. They tried to get us, but they got cooked.
We've been there too. We get really, really arrogant going into the playoffs, and you just lose that first game, and you got to shut up the rest of the season.
Yeah.
That might be what happens here with the Lions. I just have a feeling they're going to go in. They're going to be like these heavy favorites, like puffing their chest, and they're just going to get embarrassed the first game of the playoffs, and then it'll be that meme where it's like, was it one of the Franco brothers was like hanging? He's just like, first time, huh? It's gonna be that meme.
Yeah. For me, I will go. It's just I think you guys are just right around that right score, but I can't say 27-24. So I'm gonna say 28 to 24.
Trying to taking Greg Joseph out of it.
Yep, completely. We scored 4 touchdowns, and then they don't.
And two 2-point conversions.
We get 4 touchdowns. They get 3 touchdowns and a field goal at some point, and then we just win. I like 27-24. That seems just right, but I'll take
Winter whiteout, Christmas Eve. I've seen this story before. Give me 20. I like the 27-24, but Greg Joseph, you do let him kick the 60-yarder this week. 60-yard game winner as time expires. Again, winter whiteout at home. Vikings win. And I'm only picking the other one just so I can pick the favorites. But Vikings win this game for sure. beat the Packers.
Casey loses some
Into the
money.
playoffs.
But the Vikings
Play
win.
the Lions week 1. We're the ones that hand the Lions that week 1 embarrassment. Let's go.
We have it. I would love for them to lose all 3 of these games and us to win all 3 and us to win the division.
I would love that too.
And just rub that shit in their face. Oh man, I'll be like telling those guys, bring me back on the show. Bring me back on the show.
They gonna block you if that happens.
They bring me on after a loss.
Like everything up to this point doesn't even matter. If we can just win these next 3 games, this has been a very successful season.
Really tough. You got
And
divisional.
this is, if they make the playoffs, it's gonna be the first time since 2008, 2009 that the Vikings actually make the playoffs in consecutive years.
Yeah.
That's something Zimmer couldn't do. And I'm all for it. Like however we get in and do it.
Yeah, people are acting like this is a new phenomenon. This has been our life of, that kind of shit. Make the playoffs, don't make the playoffs. This has been the Vikings forever, and it's worked out to be up and at least to the beginning of this year, the 3rd best, record since the Super Bowl era. But no Super Bowl, but this has been us for a long time. I think it's like it just started happening in 2018. This has been like this forever. Need to change it.
Change it up.
Yep.
It's gonna happen this week. It's gonna happen this week with the Lions, man.
When we turn
Start
them
with
back
them.
into the Motor City Kitties.
Yeah, everybody knows what they really. It's the
Restore the roar.
The Motor City
none of that.
We're like the only We're like the only. Well, yeah. They used to wear bags on their heads. Them and the Saints. They used to wear bags on their heads.
Yeah, they'll bring them back. They'll bring them back out. All right, let's.
I think I said this last week when it came to when it came down to the Bengals. But I know you're not supposed to. I know you're not supposed to kill like the wild cats of the jungle, but we're doing it.
Yeah,
we're doing it. They're not quite extinct, but we'll make them.
They should already been. Let's go. Who do we got? Who do we got tonight? We've got boom, boom. Always goes a little bit longer than I wanted to. Boom, Gary.
Yeah. Is that 2 in a row?
Back to back, Gary. Let's go. Let's go. Gary said he was going to get on a heater soon.
He did, and he called it.
Let's see. Like Zoe has 2 skulls in here. Between JJ's like 100 of them. Papa Gary, please send to me.
But anyway,
back to back.
We really appreciate you hopping in, man. We'll definitely
I appreciate you guys having me
on again, man, for sure.
I appreciate 100%.
it. Yeah, but let's hope that next week we're sitting here talking about a Minnesota Vikings victory and everything starts going our way again. I mean, it's been a rough month, I would say, a couple wins mixed in there, but obviously we gave some away, and this literally just starts a stretch of games that you have to win. Like all margin of error is gone now after what happened, over the last few games here. So.
Yep.
Gotta find a way to pull it
house money.
Yep.
I'll look
Absolutely.
at it.
For sure. Yeah. Yep. I think that's the way they need to play too. Kevin O'Connell needs to coach that way, and let's go get the W. But all right, everybody, we appreciate you hopping in, and we'll see you guys next time right here on the Skol Experience.
Skol Vikes.